This week we're back in the animated frontier of Star Trek Lower Decks. With only 2 episodes left, it's time to view episode 9 before the end of season 1 next week. Hello everyone, my name is Captain Jack and welcome to Trek Central. Episode 9 of Star Trek Lower Decks is titled Crisis Point and is all about Mariner's relationship with her mother, Captain Freeman, and her ability to deal with this. It also features the holodeck and one crazy wacky program featuring the Holo Crew. Yep, it's one of those episodes. Now it's written by Ben Rogers and directed by Bob Swires. Of course, if you're new around here to the channel, then make sure to subscribe to Trek Central to never miss a video from the team. Next week we have the season final of Star Trek Lower Decks and then Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Set phase to stun, it's going to be a fun one. Alright, let's get into today's review. Of course, this episode starts off with our typical cold open, in a sense, which sets up the plotline of today's episode. This is with Ensign Mariner helping a species overcome their oppressive rulers who are too busy eating them. Yes, this is obviously breaking a prime directive. On further thought, I wouldn't actually call this a cold open, even though someone previously described it as, because this essentially does set up the main plotline. Now Captain Freeman beams down and an argument starts, because of course it does, and Mariner is sent to therapy even though she preferred to go to the brig. That tells us something about Mariner and also relates back to the first episode where Captain Freeman reports to the Admiral that she has tried putting her in the brig and she actually likes it. A bit of continuity there for the episodes sticking together. It's also revealed to Ensign Boimler at the end of today's episode that Mariner is in fact the daughter of Captain Freeman. I'll touch on more about this a little bit later and what I think about this, but yeah, a little bit iffy about that one. Now episode 9 is almost like a love letter to some of the original series films. You know, the ones of William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy? We're seeing multiple references to Wrath of Khan and The Search for Spock. Wrath of Khan being arguably one of the all-time best Star Trek films around. The episode also features similarities to the Next Generation episode, Hollow Pursuits. Honestly, I adore how many references to Star Trek movies this episode had, whether it be the credits signing off on screen at the end, or the generic references to the Enterprise crashing on Genesis in The Search for Spock. This was one very fun episode. Several scenes had me in stitches, as you know. The Dr. Nana one-liner toward the end of today's episode was hilarious. Also Da Vinci. The whole episode is of course centered around Mariner and Captain Freeman's relationship, with the side plot of Ensign Boimler trying to prepare for an interview with the captain. To do so, he's programmed the holodeck with an accurate simulation of the USS Cerritos crew, taken from their private logs. Very creepy, but as I mentioned earlier, it does remind us of the Next Generation episode whenever Lieutenant Barclay, or shall I say Mr. Broccoli, was featured messing around with holodecks. The sequence of Ensign Mariner and Ensign Boimler arguing all while the cinematic titles pass over their heads is hilarious, especially as it hits Boimler in the head multiple times. Another great sequence for this episode was the shuttle approaching the USS Cerritos. It's of course heavily inspired by the Star Trek movies. With the default shuttle approaching Enterprise, the thing that Star Trek always does. Seriously, it's done in Enterprise, Next Gen, the movies, it's kind of like a default Star Trek thing. Instead of using these high-tech transport systems to beam aboard our new starship, let's take the shuttle. I mean, then again, I would take the shuttle just to look at the ship, to be honest. Also, it's a shuttle. Now graphically, the Cerritos is OTT with the lens flares. Honestly, if J.J. Abrams directed this episode, I wouldn't be surprised. But this is for a comedic point, to make the ship stand out as special and the focus point of what we're talking about. With the music high and the crew reacting, as well as Chief Engineer Andy Blips crying on the shuttle console, the crew docking, my favourite line is Boimler saying the ship is a handsome lady, with Freeman replying, "You're damn right she is." As mentioned before, this whole sequence is out of a Star Trek movie, or rather inspired by multiple of them. It's great to see this, even though it's a holodeck program, so it's not super accurate, as usually the Cerritos is falling apart or something's not working on it. Boimler even references this in the Admiral's meeting, saying that the plot point would usually require sending the USS Enterprise, but due to marketing rights, they can't. Personally, I thought this moment is a little side joke where he's breaking a fourth wall to revert to the good old Star Trek rights argument that takes place online every now and again. You know, the one where no one really knows who owns Trek? Usually the argument is made up as long as it goes and nobody has a basis whatsoever. You've probably seen it before if you're online, at least on Twitter. Of course, the holodeck program is a hijack of Boimler's program with added effects by Ensign Mariner. The whole point is her to vent her frustrations at Captain Freeman, literally, as she charges through the USS Cerritos, killing innocent holodeck versions of the crew. Meanwhile, our other ensigns are up to something else. Ensign Rutherford is distracted in engineering and finally tells Chief Engineer how he feels about him when it comes to his work. They work together to save the ship and shut down any explosions inbound, leading them to essentially becoming best friends. Now, Ensign Tendi gets sick of Mariner comparing and making reference to the fact her species, Orions, are known to be pirates and slaves the whole time. While yes, it's mainly true for what we've seen in the Star Trek universe so far, it's not true for everyone. which is the point Ensign Tendi is trying to get across here. Whether it tries to or not, Star Trek delivers one of its core messages here. Don't judge an individual by what a group of other people have done, that the individual is not associated with. This message has been told in Star Trek many times before, but also could be applied to discussions out and about in the real world right now. Something to keep in mind, and it's great to see Star Trek delivering these messages once again. I have a feeling this obviously was intentional. If it wasn't, mad props off them still. The ship eventually crashes onto the surface of a planet, after Mariner had all but vaporized the entire crew. As she confronts Captain Freeman on the crashed bridge of the Cerritos, what is kind of funny is Mariner's arguing Freeman about her being a strict mother, yet because of the holodeck disguise, Captain Freeman has no clue who she actually is. That is until the actual holodeck Mariner appears and proceeds to kick the shit out of our Mariner, or should I say Vindicta. The crash sequence of the Cerritos is very similar to that of Star Trek Beyond, where Kirk's Enterprise crashes into the surface of a planet and lands with just its saucer remaining. It also lands at an angle where the command crew later return and fight while running through the broken remains of the once great ship. The movie is still awesome in my opinion, and I really need to rewatch it at some point. The end of the Cerritos fight reveals to us, and our real Mariner, that she does actually care about Captain Freeman, as holodeck Mariner held off long enough to allow the crew to evacuate and prepare for self-destruct, taking herself and our Mariner with her. While the holodeck program was designed to let out steam, it seems to have taught Ensign Mariner a long overdue lesson. As the close of this episode starts, Mariner makes up with the captain and also Ensign Tendi. Of course, Captain Freeman is still convinced she is up to something, as she screams at the counselor, almost parallel to what her daughter was doing earlier in the episode. Like mother, like daughter, I guess. Finally, Ensign Boimler stumbles upon something he was likely not meant to find out. That, of course, is Captain Freeman is the mother of Ensign Mariner. Honestly, I thought he already knew this. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but I swear Mariner had mentioned it to some of her crewmates before. Or it might just be the fact it's mentioned to us, the viewer, on several occasions, but I am confusing it with. I'll check back on previous episodes and see, but if you know, let me know down below in the comment sections as per usual. Of course, overcome with this new information, Ensign Boimler is way put off his actual interview and fails it, as he's too busy talking about Mariner being Freeman's daughter. Oh well, another one for the books it seems. The episode ends with each of the crew signing their names with Samantha and Rutherford, Tendi, Bradwood Boimler, and of course, Beckett Mariner. Now, it's similar to the ending sequence from Star Trek VI An Undiscovered Country, in which a final send-off to the original series crew. They all sign their names at the end of the movie. It's still one of the best films out there and might be my all-time favourite Star Trek film. Speaking of which, let me know your all-time favourite Star Trek film in the comments below. I really want to know. Okay, so my final thoughts on this episode. Overall, it was super enjoyable to watch. Personally, sometimes I find the holodeck episodes annoying to watch, as they're not enjoyable for me. However, this episode worked out really well, while also delivering a core message from Star Trek once again. The episode format and layout complemented the plotline well, but I do feel as if Mariner is the captain's daughter trope is slightly misplaced now. We the viewers have known this to be the case for some time, therefore I think we presume that the other three ensigns were also aware of this key fact, but maybe not. It appears that episode 10, the season final of Lower Decks, will explore in some detail. So we need to know how this goes when Ensign Boimler inadvertently reveals it to the entire galaxy. Let's be honest, he'll find a way to do it somehow. Given we're now close to the season final and the end of season 1 for Star Trek Lower Decks, I'd be interested in your opinions of the series so far. Let me know what you think of the series so far and if you've been enjoying it. I think it's also interesting to see that if you originally thought of the series has changed over the premise of the first season. For example, did you not expect the animation comedy format or not expect to love it, but now you actually really like it, or the other way around? Let me know what you think about it down below in the video comment section below, because if you're talking about Star Trek, then we want to hear about it. Now that does wrap us up for this week's review of Star Trek Lower Decks. Episode 9 was a blast, and we've come to expect from the series so far. Next we'll be talking about the season 1 final, which is episode 10, and what it has to offer for an upcoming season 2. Remember, we stream weekly here on YouTube every Sunday at 9 PM BST, so tune in this week to join our live discussion about everything Lower Decks. I hope to see you there. For now, I've been Captain Jack here on Trek Central, and we'll catch you next time. Live long and prosper, my friends.